being slow right now.
I made sure we got that part.
That's why you're speaking, KEC, right? No. Hey, guys, I'm Wesley Kirkland. So I think I know probably most of y'all right now, but one thing I want to get out of the way before this. So we've had a lot of DevOps talks recently. We had No Ops by Mr. Cal. I don't even remember what yours was, and I was there when you wrote it. Something was.
That's so deep right now. It's not even
I'm kidding, man. So we've had so many talks on DevOps. I was genuinely trying to think of what can we do that's more boring than DevOps? DNS and domains. So let's dig into it.
turn around and look at the back of your shirt.
Yes, it does say stuff. Just a fun story. I was at Ingles one time, and this lady thought it said security porn star on the back. That was a very interesting time in my life. Yeah, I wasn't actually planning on going out of the house that day either. So anyways, some of my better accomplishments that I'm actually proud of, this one, I can say damn it, that does not work on the TV. So I do a lot of DNS, do a lot of domains. I'm an email bitch apparently at work. Has been can attest to, do certificates. It's just a whole crapshoot of what I actually do at this point in time. So anyways, we'll figure it out. Before the talk, we have to at least start with a joke. Does anyone at least have an answer to it or speculation? No. No. I mean, technically there is top level domains. So anyways, no, since we're at it, dating in your 30s is a lot like buying a domain name. All the good ones are taken, but you can always get one from an exotic country. Thank you, thank you. I did not write it, unfortunately. So on to the most boring part of this, or maybe it'll be DNS. Aaron can tell us which one later. Domain name aspects. So there's a lot of different aspects we actually need to understand when we're doing a domain name. The first one is going to be what is actually defined as a TLD right now. Most of us know like .com, .net, org, we call them the 333, or at least that's what I'm calling them whenever we go on them. Say, my cool idea, .com. Don't worry, that's already taken. But you could probably get .me for free, or .tk. But anyway, so we have what actually is a domain there. Then we have two concepts, a registry versus a registrar. I mean, sorry, a registry versus, yes, that is correct. So your registry for .com, for example, is actually going to be a company called VeriSign. Most of us probably know who they are at this point, but they're going to be who actually owns the rights to that specific gTLD or ccTLD. While the registrar is going to be, like most of us know, like Awful Cheap, as I'm going to call them, or GoDaddy, Crapwork Solutions. There's a couple others. There's also enterprisey ones such as Mark Monitor, CSC, Name, Wade, a couple others. And we as individuals are actually going to call the registrant, or what also is known as organization. So whether or not you're doing it on behalf of your company or if you're going to set up some shell corporation. Note, domains are actually traded with shell corporations a lot of times, and it's a little bit kind of tricky. The last concept on this is going to be what's known as a gTLD versus a ccTLD. Is anyone in the room actually familiar with the differences? I actually expected that. So
ccTLD is basically the countryside.
Correct.
.uk.
Yeah, well,
.co.
.uk actually just relatively recent history became a TLD. Used to only be able to buy third-level domains with them because of the co-UK crap. Brazil's also like that. But so a gTLD is actually split into two different subsections, legacy gTLDs and new gTLDs. Legacy is going to be your com, net, org, biz, info, crap like that. While a ccTLD is actually very special. They're always going to be 2 letters long, and that's actually due to the ISO 3166 standard, specifically revision 1 for it. There are a couple different revisions past it, but whatever the actual international country code is, like UK, US, IN, stuff like that, that's what's going to classify your ccTLD. And that list actually is really kind of intriguing, because for all of our gTLDs, actually one thing on gTLDs, the new ones are going to be like, that probably is one, but yes, .ninja, .fun, .site. Yeah, you have a new gTLD. .works, that's not how that .works. My shameless plug in there. So, but anyways, you can see there's a lot of freaking crazy space on the internet now. And a lot of the new gTLDs kind of seem like spammy things, especially Donuts seems to be doing a lot of that. Though, one thing to note on our ccTLDs is while we all know, or most of us should know, the organization ICANN for managing our domain space, ccTLDs are actually not subject to ICANN rules. So if you're going to submit a complaint against Network Solutions, as I have to do monthly at my point in my job right now, unfortunately, they're going to tell you to screw off because they don't have any affiliation with them. Though ICANN specifically does have agreements with over 50 ccTLD providers to where they do interopt with each other. So for actually buying and registering domains, we have 4 different registration models. Our gTLD model is always going to follow ICANN is going to be our overarching body, registry to the registrar. Registrar sometimes goes to a reseller, but it's not always. Note we can also bypass the registry in there. Well, ccTLDs can get really stupid and really funky. .uk follows a weird ccTLD mixed model there. But the one that we'll still typically see is you buy it through GoDaddy, and GoDaddy might be going through another reseller behind the scenes. Like for Armenia, they do that because Key Systems runs most of that crap. But then you can also go from the registry that just sells directly to the registrar. I mean, to you as the registrant itself. It's a little bit hard to see, but the arrow is actually going through, and I blame ICANN for this right now. Actually, it's EPEG. Sorry. But so the registry can actually sell directly to you, considering they are the registry and the registrar, and they can sell to you as the registrant. And then you have the mixed model where you can go to GoDaddy or you can go direct to them. So for our gTLDs, they actually have a specific life cycle that they all follow, which has actually been a real saving grace for me a couple times at work recently. Well, before we did our consolidation. Specifically on it, one thing I wanted to illustrate is we have our redemption grace period. So most registrars will follow it. GoDaddy does not, I believe. But within that 30-day grace period, your domain's still not up for sale, but your domain can actually work even though you haven't legally paid for it at that point in time. ICANN has not received payment. Well, the registry, ICANN being the overarching body for it. But you can kind of see what's going on there. One thing that is intriguing is you can only have a 10-year term on a gTLD by default. There are registrars such as GoDaddy, they'll sell you like a 20-year term on a domain, but they're just taking your money and renewing it at each individual renewal point on the year. So
we're talking about a domain under a gTLD.
Yes, specifically, most of this talk is geared towards gTLDs, but we do have fun with some ccTLDs later. But this is specific to legacy and new gTLDs as they're both governed by ICANN.
You can't go buy a gTLD.
Yeah, it's just a .com.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can buy I can buy .in, but could have.
No, actually, you cannot.
Well, you can.
No. We'll get to .brand later, but .brand registrations have actually been closed, and you would have to have a trademark through the TMCH.
Point being that you can go
yes.
Get a gTLD. Right.
It's not called a gTLD though.
What's it called?
.brand. I know it's really stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, TLD is the top level domain. That's .ninja.com.
Sorry, yes. Sorry, I thought you were saying gTLD. My bad. Yeah, so you still can get custom ones. You can also do .local as Microsoft has instructed us.
It's like 30,000 francs a year, and then you have to run all the service yourself.
No, we'll get to that part. Quit spoiling my talk, guys.
All right.
Be quiet, Aaron.
When I hear gTLD, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that top level.
Correct, yeah. Because that's what we in America are actually used to. A lot of people like to consider .com as American property, but it's not. ICANN is relatively an international organization. So one thing to note, I mentioned it earlier, but our actual top level, second level, third level just keeps going on down. Brazil is very common for, they will actually regulate the second level that you register on, and you just can't buy .bz. You have to buy like .lol, .bz, so on and so forth. So a subdomain on that would actually qualify down as a fifth level, which is a kind of an interesting concept. France does it too. UK back in 2013 opened up the .uk TLD namespace, and that way you don't have to come off co.uk as you are a company for that. EPP codes. This is a really interesting concept and something we've had to memorize a lot of it. I know my coworker Brandon's had to troubleshoot a lot of customer sites with EPP codes. Also, EPP is used for auth codes, so it's kind of a dual moniker almost. But in specific, you have server codes and client codes. And this is not a complete list, but one that always sticks. Yes. For extensible provisioning protocol. Had to write it down because it's not one I remember. No. Yeah, it's technically an initialism. Acronyms are pronounceable. I have to sound knowledgeable, guys. Yes. Yeah, so one that always kind of sticks out to me is the OK status code. It means everything's okay, but it's kind of really bad because we should actually have a transfer prohibited on it, or sorry, a server transfer prohibited code. And that would mean that there is an actual domain lock on it. You always want to be in some sort of locking fashion unless you are explicitly wanting to transfer your domain between registrars. There's just various different ones, of course. That
used to be a big deal, getting domains stolen.
Yeah.
You go online and look up the history around sex.com. There's been whole write-ups about how it was stolen and the whole story around it.
There was also a news article past couple of years. One guy was held up at gunpoint for his domain name, and the assailant actually wrote down instructions on how to transfer to his GoDaddy account. Which I'm like, that's one smart assailant, but I don't remember. It was something insane. So we'll get into some of those domains later, but you always want to have a it's the transfer prohibited code, specifically on the server class. That way they're not just randomly trying to do it. Because if you ever look at an EPP code for all ggTLDs, they're what, only 8, 12-ish characters long or something like that. You can brute force that relatively easily speaking with enough CPU power and stuff. But they are designated into server versus client on there. Where did that go? Oh, one thing to note on this. Has anyone heard of RDAP? So everyone knows what whois protocol is, right? So RDAP is actually a JSON implementation that runs over HTTPS for it, which is super freaking nice, except for the fact of ICANN sucks and they can't force it down to ccTLDs, and vcards are stored in the most BS format ever in a JSON blob. It's some text strings and arrays inside of an array, and it's just absolutely awful.
Before you leave it, where are these codes? Now, I know I've registered some.
These.
I've seen them as client transfer prohibited, but I had no idea that was a big thing.
The slides will be shared. Specifically, this is from ICANN.org. If you search ICANN EPP codes, they're all listed there.
But where would I get an EPP code? How do you get your status?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's just on a whois lookup. For example, hold on. Yeah, so I'm going to do it over on another screen. That way Google Slides doesn't get all pissed off at me. Yes.
Going off script.
Here, let's just do discovery. So specifically on discovery right here, these codes I'll actually talk. Well, that's not full. That's registrar, not registry. Let's look at. The registrar will, depending on what the registrar state is and how they report the domain up, is what will go to the registry. But in RDAP, all the registrar is actually responsible for providing that information. Right now, it's kind of a mixed bag. It just depends. One thing we could do though is
the registrar puts the codes and that gets pumped up to the registry.
For gTLDs, it's a mixed bag of how it works. So right here on example.com, it's IANA reserved, but right now the client can't do anything. They can't update, they can't transfer, they can't delete the domain, but there's not anything preventing it from the server side right now.
What's the difference between like a server transfer and a client transfer in that case?
That was a fantastic question, Brandon. One that I have written down somewhere. So Difference between client and server transfer codes. I don't think there actually is an entire client transfer code.
Because we have like server transfer prohibited and client transfer prohibited.
Who's the server and the client in this example?
Server is going to be the registry. Client transfer or server transfer prohibited. So generally it's going to be if you're in a legal dispute or something called a registry lock. While a client transfer prohibited is, yeah, just, hey, reject transfer requests.
Client is more.
Yeah, don't become sex.com.
Transfer prohibited means I don't want my domain being transferred. Server transfer prohibited is like someone suing you for your domain.
It can, yeah. Our domains at work, Brandon, actually do contain both codes.
So the client can't supersede the server transfer first.
Correct. Server's always going to win out, period.
So is that something you can usually
Oh,
find when you
damn it.
try and ask for?
We will get into that in 1 second. That really screwed up Google Slides there.
You know,
Mhm.
actual PowerPoint will let you do the notes in the slide.
Man, you know, Ben, we're trying to like use open source here, crap. Server prohibited. So a lot of you all were starting to allude to these. So notice the ones on the right are either just like client transfer, or you'll see my personal domain down there, renew period. Renew period's in there for 30 days. So if I wanted to go back to the registry and say, or registrar/registry, the registrar would communicate to the registry. But if I want to go back to the registrar and say, hey, I accidentally renewed this, I want my money back, I can get my money back within 30 days, assuming they follow that. The .me ccTLD is actually in under that what ICANN has agreements with. But over on the left, one of our works primary domain in Cisco, we'll notice they all have prohibited codes both from the client and the server. This is actually something called, or it's something of what's called a registry lock. So there's two different versions, specifically to Mark Monitor. You can have a registrar lock and a registry lock. A registrar lock would be, we go and pay Mark Monitor and say, we don't want our users to be able to go into your portal and update our domain's information. So they basically lock it down from their API and their web interface. While a registry lock, specifically for .com, what they're actually going to go and do is they're going to lock it both down in their portal, and then they're going to go to the registry and say, hey, here is our authentication protocol for this. Please do note, you as the client actually get to write this authentication protocol, so you can add all sorts of stupid stuff to it, and it's fantastic. Do it.
It's very fun.
Yeah, like you can give them custom passphrases, or like I have to do the play the cha-cha slide to you, and it's a binding agreement. But anyways, so with a registry lock, what it actually is this locked in your registrar's portal, but it's also locked at the registry. So if the registrar got compromised, whether or not it's through you or just them, if they went in and said, hey, I want to change the name servers for ministerbrands.com or cisco.com, even if the registrar sent that code, the registry is going to deny it because it's a server lock on their side. They're not allowed to do anything. It actually comes down to a great story is for cisco.com, they actually used to be with CSC and they moved to Mark Monitor. So what they had to do is coordinate a call with CSC domains and Mark Monitor and have everyone on the line to unlock the domain at CSC at the registrar level. Then the registrar had to call at VeriSign, do their two-factor with VeriSign. VeriSign unlocked it, and it's only unlocked for 15 minutes max, and then it goes right back down. So if you want a name server update, you got to do it in 15 minutes. The Mark Monitor had to pull the transfer at the same time. So it can be quite an involved process all at the same time. Also, just kind of one interesting thing, camel.com, the registrar is Amazon. That's actually just a white label for Gandhi. They just use the Gandhi API behind the scenes. So .brand, this is what Andy was alluding to, where he wanted to go by .andy. I'm not for or against it either way. Personally, I wanted to buy .brands, but it costs a lot of money and ICANN won't let me. Newstar is a big time registrar. They run .biz, I believe, and a couple others. .fox, .kpmg, that one's actually really intriguing because if you go to kpmg.com, it redirects you to home.kpmg. They are the first .brand to take major advantage of their, or they're the first brand to take major advantage of their .brand TLD and just start using it for everything because it's relatively free to them, just excluding hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, I mean, but it's KPMG. They have the money to burn. Google owns like 5 .brands, and Amazon has .aws, .amazon, a couple others, Toyota. Also, kind of interesting story. Go look at the Nissan.com legal debuts, or yeah, that's always a good one. But for these, they were introduced in 2013. The application fee was $185,000 just to file an application, not including your legal or your in-house fees. If the application was approved, you are now on the hook to pay a $25,000 annual fee for maintaining your .brand and a per domain fee. Of course, you're relatively the registry, so you can make your fee whatever the hell you want. So one game I wanted to play with, Chad. Yes, there you are. I got this from one of our talks a couple months ago. So what do we, so who do you think these belong to? We'll start with IO. Yes, you do have to participate.
Indian Ocean?
Okay, well, Aaron's not allowed to talk anymore. British Indian Oceans. What about .tv?
Transylvania.
I get that one a lot.
What is Transylvania? There's no city state, aren't they?
I don't know.
It's I'm not sure on
Tuvalu or Tuvalu, yes. Yeah. There's also one thing you'll see in here. See where I have the ccTLD? This is actually a Google-specific moniker. They classify it as a generic country code TLD, like .tv. You'll find Fox.tv, Plex.tv for all those enthusiasts out there. What about .me? Aaron picked up on the hint. Any more guesses? Damn it. Yeah, I know. Montenegro, that's what it is. I've gone through the slide like 50 times and I forgot. What about .ai?
That's Azerbaijan, isn't it?
Nope. AJ maybe, I don't know. It's actually Angola. So one thing. Exactly. Now, one thing I do want to note is all the ones I put on here, they're specifically generally geared towards tech or radio transmissions. What about .app?
It's actually Google's.
Charleston Road Registry. Yep. Just a fun backstory. Charleston Road Registry is Google. Charleston Road is actually the road behind the Googleplex. So that's where they get their name from.
And it's one of those ones that they've set
HSTS, .app, .page, all of those. .dev. What about .hr? Nope, Bamboo HR does not own it. It's not Hungary, even though that is the logical choice. It's actually Croatia. So, no. So the reason this one actually is, I was in Croatia and I saw all their GT or ccTLDs and it confused the hell out of me. Turns out their native language, Croatia is spelled entirely different. So I forget. What about .fm? Someone actually said the answer earlier. Andy? You did actually.
Micronesia?
Yeah, Federated States of Micronesia.
I didn't say for that one. So okay.
What about .mc? MC Hammer does not own it. Any guesses? Monaco.
Oh, yeah, they're a country.
What about .am? Yeah, they are a country, the only country in the world without taxes.
Oh, wow.
.am? Yeah, Brandon unfortunately knows this because he's heard me bitch about it. Nope. And so .amsterdam could actually become a ccTLD. Those are really fancy. It's actually Armenia. Armenia is a real pain in the ass to deal with, by the way. I've spent the last 6 months dealing with them, and I would really like to never deal with Armenia again. Like literal international jurisdiction issues. Yeah. Yeah, it just, I've had to play private investigator. It's not fun. So ccTLD issues. So we all love to buy these. .io. We, as my company, owns far too many .io domains, and it truly does pain me. Some of the issues that have actually gone around with them. The .io error. There's a security researcher. He was using a DNS visualization tool, which we'll get into later. And he found out, it's like, hey, these domains are not registered. Well, that's fine. Sometimes they're just not registered for the actual name servers. I'm gonna go and try and buy one. At least they should block it there. That was not the case. He set up a bind server and accidentally took control of .io. Registered, what, 4 domains in total, and then reported it. Eventually got all of his money back after like 2 or 3 days. Ended up helping the greater tech community because we all love .io. .ly, there was a civil war in Liberia. So they kind of didn't have anyone at the office to take registration requests. Like some of these ccTLDs are legitimately like 2 people in a building. There's no redundancy. There's some server in the back. They're not very good. IQ is really intriguing there. Of course, all the titles are there. But Iraq didn't want their students to cheat, so they're like, screw you, world, and just shut down their internet. Yeah. And that's really great because, like, I see IQ. Yes, Nick.
I was saying, like, when you say shut down internet, I talk about internet through like a building where.
No, like how Egypt shuts down their internet.
They basically told all the ISPs, yeah, none of you provide service to anyone for now.
Because, yeah, for the students to take a test. Like, honest to God, this really happened.
It's not like the way you spell it.
So the last one on here is .eu. This one actually is kind of affecting me right now. So everyone's painfully familiar with Brexit, I hope by now. So of course, the UK was UK and Northern Ireland were formally a part of the EU up until recently. But this EURID, which is the registry behind .eu, has been on this for a while. Basically, if you live in Britain, you're not allowed to have a .eu domain. Doesn't matter if you had it. Doesn't matter if your business was attached to it. Screw you, it's gone. You are still allowed to do local presence options, or if you have a friend that lives there that can take legal authority control and all that fun stuff. Specifically, I have a quote from a vendor on here though. EURID no longer allows registrants for .eu domains to be located in the United Kingdom or Gibraltar. The registrant link is required to be located in one of the European Union member states. So yeah, you have to live in the EU. I will do one vendor plug. Mark Monitor, they do offer local presence options. If you do have issues with this, please note this is not sponsored by them or anything, but there are other options for if you as a end user want to buy a .eu domain and don't have things for them. Yes, and if you don't have resources or business registrations in Ireland or something like that. So IDNs, these are actually internationalized domain names. There's a lot of speculation around them. Originally, the internet was like, hey, we should let the native language be in it, like Cyrillic and other fun stuff. I also should note, the Google one is not mine, but that literally is copy and pasted with the IDNs in it, and you can't tell a freaking difference in it. It's really funny because the G's are sub-Latin characters, but most browsers interpret them as you see here. Yeah, punny code. There's homographs, punny code, and there's lots of different names for it. It's really funny on that one. It goes to helpdeskbutton.com, which seems really cool because you can buy a button, and when you press it, it will auto submit to your ticket system like the last 5 minutes of what happened on their computer. But on the PayPal one, this is something this is actually mine, but I should note, right, most of you probably have already seen what's going on with that one. If we click on it, bit.ly is only because Google Drive does not interpret punny code correctly, and it says it's an invalid link and all this stupid crap. And my hotspot is cut out now, hasn't it? No, it hasn't. Why are you not working? You know, so I would like to send out more, but there's this really weird legality thing that I have to work around, and it's a real pain in my ass. Yeah. Actually, so legally they cannot, which is, no, well, it is their trademark, but I'll get into that in a second. Damn you. Is that the right interpretation? Nope, that was the wrong. I copied it wrong there. Why are you not working, Billy? You know what? I might have actually gotten taken down now. That, yeah. Well, that's a real problem. Yeah, that's how IDNs actually work. They're always prefixed with XN dash dash. Yeah, I registered it through name.com because they're really shady and Namecheap was being a pain in my ass. So, yes, actually I did. Well, the thing is, I was theoretically legally protected because all I was doing was redirecting the traffic. No, I still do have it. Oh, wait, no, that's 5 days ago, crap. Client, oh yeah, that's a problem. Well, shit. Yeah. So anyways, that happened. Just a note, bottom right's what it shows up on an iPhone. Top left is what it shows up on, bottom right's Android, top right is, damn it. Top left is what it is on an iPhone. God. Jeez, that sucks. So what I actually wanted to do is I want to run, I can't pronounce it, but it's like Modishaka or something like that. Basically, I want to run a reverse SSL man-in-the-middle proxy and start yanking out stuff, but that gets really into sketchy legal territory, and then they can do a UDRP request since it's .com, and it would be taken away from me. And
that's not even sketchy at that
point. Yeah, it's just straight up illegal. Like,
you're solidly over that line.
Yeah, well, one person I was talking to, he actually works in security here in Knoxville. He had an interview, and they asked him, like, how much of your job's illegal? Most of it. Good. That's the right answer. Yeah, so I need to figure out, because the client holds really bad. No, that one's actually on name.com. I also tried to register it through Gandhi, but they were up with their integrity bullshit and stuff. Yeah. Then I also kind of figured if I was going to do something sketchy, it probably shouldn't be associated with my wonderful domains, and that's not how that works, and all those fun things. So DNS. So Aaron, was the first part boring, or is this part going to be boring? Oh, darn. Are you sure, Ben? Because, like, how many times has this been true for you? It's not DNS. There's no way it's DNS. It was frickin' DNS. Yeah, that means you're doing it wrong. Yes, it actually is a haiku. Just ask Brad Hillis. He should know. No, back at when I worked at Team Health, I actually had this hung up in my queue because it was basically my reminder of why my life sucks at this point in time. So name server architecture. So this gets really kind of fun. So let's go look at LOPSA E10. This is, hopefully the internet actually loads. This is really intriguing at this point. So just, this is actually fairly simple overall for how everything is actually working. You can see LOPSA-E10.org is actually managed by Hurricane Electric. Specifically, .org relies upon the .NET TLD. .org is owned by Phyllis. They are the registry for .org. We can trace all that back down and just keep on going down. .NET's, of course, managed by our GTLD servers there. Yeah. Google.com too. Yeah, and glue records. Google.com is actually really simple when you look at it. Like,
That's pretty flat.
yeah.
Compared to everything else.
So .com relies exclusively on .net. .net relies upon itself. It's like, oh wow, these are really simple right now.
Its name servers are located in.
Exactly. So like here's LOPSA E10. .org relies upon the .net TLD.
Did you want some weird look at anything that's on Route 53? Because Route 53.
Yeah, that we'll get to that one.
Oh.
My Wesley.me. Actually, I'll have to do a Route 53 one. Cloudflare is not even that bad here. It's probably harder for you all to see. So Wesley.me, of course, goes back to their NIC. Notice we can kind of see where ccTLD kicks in because they're just relying exclusively on themselves at this point. While my .coms, of course, go back to .com, then trace back to .net. No, that's going to be what, first, second level in there? No, first and second. But I'm not entirely sure. This is by VeriSign. Of course, like I said, they run the .com TLD. Exactly. So remember the .io, how I talked about they were using DNS visualization? I think this is actually the tool they used. Like you can just visualize it and you can start doing all sorts of fun crap. Yeah, DNS Viz primarily does DNS sec though. Yeah, here, since Aaron mentioned Route 53 earlier, I'll do Works Domain, which is on Route 53, and like, holy crap, it's still loading. Oh, look, it's a progressive image. That's nice. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Welcome to LOPSA. Hey, look, I was 6 when the 90s ended.
I did a lot of stupid things on computers when I was young, okay?
So the last one I want to show is actually, this is legitimate PayPal.com once it loads. What? No, yeah. Well, I mean, apparently I have some legal dispute going on right now. So, yeah, like I have a real problem right now. But if this actually properly loads, like, good God.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, so here's.
That looks like our network map.
So I want to show you all something.
It doesn't look back right over there.
Okay, so do note in this one, so PayPal.com, they actually rely upon Dyna something. What is that? Oracle, I think. But they also have a dual name server redundancy as far as between companies. So they use Ultra DNS, which is actually really funny for this one, because if we trace it back down for Ultra DNS, Ultra DNS uses, or ultradns.biz uses ultradns.net. Turns out what they actually use is they're technically relying upon Australia. So PayPal could technically go down if Australia told the world to screw off. So there's lots of different things we can actually do here and start visualizing out our DNS. Sure.
AWS.1.guru. I have glue records in place, and I want to know what it's going to do with those.
Did I spell your name right?
Yes. Delegation. Guru runs its own name servers, but with glue records on the same registry. So I want to know what it's going to do with those glue records.
Yeah. I mean, so we've got Route 53, Route 53, Route 53, Route 53. It's just going down like a typical route, or because Amazon's registered net.org, co.uk, and something else. Glue records aren't going to necessarily be in this example. It's just going to show name server architecture. Yeah.
Glue records basically just shortcuts and lookup chains.
Kind of. Yeah. So just for if anyone is unaware of DNS queries, you're always going to go root. Root's going to send you to your TLD. TLD is going to send you back to the authoritative name servers. Blue records do kind of play a crucial role into this. They're both shortcuts and they're also incredibly helpful for it. To do one thing, I have one link in here. Really would help if I knew where my mouse was, just to kind of trace down how we're actually going to go look up one. Come on, dig, work faster. So of course we're going to go down, go check our root servers, get our referral back to our TLD namespace, and of course refer back to my domain at that point in time. Damn it. Ugh. Awesome. Be quiet, bin 2.0. Yes, and I don't know why. Well, technically, that means you have 1 day off this year, so more than what you normally get. Well, yeah. Anyways, all root DNS servers are going to be anycast, so you're effectively never going to go down at this point, blah, blah, blah. Exploiting DNS text records. So for the room, what is the maximum string size you can have in a text record?
It's complicated.
We're getting to that part. What's the maximum text record? Jonathan, I know you know this answer. By default, yes, but you can actually double that, and it's 512 for a normal DNS text record on an improperly configured DNS server. String concatenation, 512 bytes. All that fun stuff. Or, damn it, we can just start doing really stupid stuff right here. I wanted to do a little bit of a better job on this, but this was the best that I could do with the time. Do what? It actually is. Like, yeah, no, like, it's like the first 400 lines of Shrek.
Just saying. He uses Route 53, they give you 1 million DNS lookups.
Please no. Be quiet, Brandon.
65 records in that chain. Resolve it 3,000 times and he starts paying money.
So guys, as it turns out here, Cloudflare's text record limits are actually absurdly low. Like, they're very reasonable for what you're going to do. Amazon, on the other hand, just really doesn't give two flying craps what you do. But I learned there's some hidden limits that I'm sure Aaron's probably not even going to be aware of. 3,200 characters in a single text record, even with string concatenation. I don't know. Probably so. Yeah. Probably so. Yeah. But also a resource record set in Route 53 can only be 400 records. I know. I want to set up a bind server and make it do other stuff, but I'm very, very sad and disappointed now. But I thought you all would at least enjoy that. Also, I want to figure out how to get it to return them in the actual screenplay order, but DNS is random and blah, 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 especially with Route 53 due to the way that they do their algorithms. Route 53, they have a great article on how they shard their DNS records, and it really just depends on whatever the hell server responds first. So, but that was the best I could do with this demo. But yeah, theoretically, your DNS text record can actually be 65,535 bytes. So a hell of a lot of data in a single text record. So just to go and look at this, querying normal text record, but that's not how that works. We can see, oh, well, we're just doing DNS over UDP, or we can go down, oh, great. Or we can go down and see what we actually did here. We actually have to fail over to TCP. Unfortunately, a lot of older DNS servers block TCP because it's used for zone transfers and they want security and all that crap. So yeah, there's lots of fun crap that we can actually do on here. But yeah, see through Wireshark, what is it, 14 packets to bring in our response because it was originally truncated. So some DNS tips and tricks. Our first one is actually going to be something called overriding wildcards. So this with most of these, they actually vary by DNS server implementation. I learned this one by accident when one of my coworkers broke something. But so if you had an A record or yeah, if you had a wildcard for star.example.com, it pointed 1.1.1. If you had a text record just for test.com, depending on the DNS server implementation, the A record might actually load. I was originally under the impression, and I learned I was wrong according to the RFC specs, that it would just provide a custom record for the text. Instead, it actually becomes authoritative for that entire subzone. Well, the record name for it. So you wouldn't get back an A record. Route 53 in specific does it. All these are actually primarily geared towards Route 53 as a whole. Next one's going to be, are you going to load? CNAME on the Apex. So with the augmentation or with cloud computing and everything coming up, you probably run into this a lot where you want to do an ELB on the Apex. And yeah, so there's a couple different things with this. Cloudflare, DN Simple, DNS Made Easy, also commonly known as DME, they all let you do this. They do them through what's called alias records. Route 53 and Azure both do them. I think Azure will let you do it. Ben, will Azure let you do alias records to non-subscription items? So they're limited like Route 53? Okay.
You have to be in there. It's just like Route 53.
Okay.
The problem there is that with the CNAME, nothing else can have that name.
Exactly, because the CNAME has to be the only thing on it.
Have NS records. So you can't
And an SOA.
Two cows will actually let you do it.
I didn't say there are good providers out
They
there.
will actually serve the CNAME, and it will actually work with most resolvers.
Yeah, but you have to add the keyword most, which is a very bad thing to do. Go look at the slides later on. There's actually something from, what is it? Yeah, the ISC, to where they want to do what's called A name records. So that way you can basically load in what's called a custom HTTP record. It's like an MX record for all intents and purposes.
CNAMEs are like a C also, and they apply to everything, including.
Hold on. Shut up, Aaron. Differences in CNAMEs. So as Aaron just unfortunately spoiled her slide for us, I'm kidding, we still do it like you. So if we did support.example.com, CNAME that over to Zendesk. Depending on the DNS server implementation, a proper one would actually do any resource goes down to Zendesk.com. Whether or not you requested an NAPTR record, a CA record, or anything like that, it would all go down to Zendesk. That would actually be really intriguing with CAA records and Let's Encrypt today. I'm really kind of curious of that now. There are some implementations, I don't know how bind functions, but where you could basically throw a text record on your Apex or your root zone and it would override it. Generally, as with most things in IT. So yeah, depending on your DNS server implementation, you can do that. In my line of work, I generally try and stick by actual standards. That way we're not locked into one specific vendor. Yeah. Our next one is, this is actually really funny. If you're sensitive, please don't go watch the video, but there's a guy that dresses up as a cat named Neil, and he does a fantastic job of explaining DNS in a rant form. Yes, he is legitimately dressed as a cat.
In rants.
Yes. Yes. Shut up, Brandon. So, I know what shirt you're probably wearing underneath right now.
Actually, I'm not.
Yes. So we're not going to get to DNSSEC after this, but anyways, administration. I found this quote online, and it actually really kind of speaks to me. It needs expert administration, otherwise hire someone. I cannot tell you the amount of crap I've had to clean up due to someone not understanding what they're doing in DNS, or people saying, well, this provider lets me do CNAMEs at the alias. Why don't you? Because it's not in spec. Glue records, it was alluded to earlier, they're actually shortcuts. It will actually, since glue records are cacheable records that come in the additional section of the DNS response, they will say, hey, this is how you get to this specific resource, and that way I don't have to go back to the root servers and all that fun and exciting crap.
For like managing name servers like ns1.domain.com.
Yeah, Google specifically. So Google's name servers are ns1-4.google.com. Without a name server, you end up in an infinite loop, and it can never break. So name servers, glue records actually break that loop for you, and they also provide shortcuts. Pretty much any zone you do or query is going to have that.
Really confuse things by having the glue records be different from the records you're actually serving.
Yeah, let's not do that. I've also seen that. See, that's why DNS requires expert administration or hire someone. If you need DNS help, you can always hire me.
Please.
Oh, great. Oh, I hate you, Ben. Yeah, it's my coworker. I have a lot of coworkers here tonight for those. Yeah. An interesting concept. So we all know your identity is your email, right? So your identity or your email is also DNS. DNS is also domains. If any of these layers get compromised, you are straight up compromised. Down here is actually a link you can click on afterwards. It's Matthew Prince, the Cloudflare CEO, explaining how they got compromised through, oddly enough, social engineering at AT&T. But it's an interesting twist on how, if I get access to your DNS zone or your registrar, of how we can mix and match crap. A lot of companies will still store DNS at their registrar. And then we can go in there, temporarily change this one record or dump out our zone files, bring it somewhere else. That's why registry super locking is a very important thing for your top tier brands like PayPal.com, Google.com, all of those out there. We're gonna have to skip DNSSEC right now. Yes, actually. So actually one thing while I was doing this, it's stupidly complicated, but yet it's so simple at the same time. And I now understand why Amazon bitches every time someone says, why don't you do DNSSEC? It's so easy. No, it's not.
Everyone skips it.
I mean, the only thing Route 53's got going for them is they pre-classify everything to a resource record set. So they've got that going for them, but even then they manipulate it on top, and it just basically makes it ill-defined at this point. Just a list of kind of my favorite tools and links. MX Toolbox, if you're in the room, don't know what MX Toolbox is, it's your new best friend. Let's just leave it at that. View DNS info is really great. One story on it. Most everyone in the room is probably aware of the vulnerability I did with Limecast. I actually used View DNS to help find reverse records that we could start exploiting with domains. It's an alternative to DNS trails via security trails. DNS Viz will actually help you visualize DNSSEC information. DNS trails, fantastic for historical, or as we used to call it, finding Buddha in a closet. Because the name server will just be wiped when your domain expires. Thanks, GoDaddy. NTLD stats, fantastic statistics on what's expiring, what's been registered, what registrar owns X percentage of this, like .space, for example. ICANN wiki, just standard media wiki, of course from Wikipedia, this platform, but wiki of everything you would ever want to know from ICANN. Dig web interface, I use Windows. I don't always have Dig. There's lots of things I need Dig for. Dig web interface works great. Come here tonight, I can use Dig web interface. Fantastic. DNS perf is, I don't have time to show it. They have fantastic statistics on DNS performance from around the world, many different resolvers. So that way, if your company comes to you and is like, hey, we want the fastest DNS across the world. One, just pick Cloudflare, you'll pay for it. But that way you can actually get real world statistics on what's going. RFC 8499, it's one I recently just found, but it's the complete list of DNS terminology. So if you ever have a question, it'll actually help you. My contact information, if you ever have questions on it. But now, hey Ben, I think I still technically have 45 seconds left.
45 seconds, all right.
Yeah, but yeah, whatever. Let's go down to K-Town. QR code, if maybe your phone will scan it, who knows. Thank you all.
Yeah, questions, burning questions, whatever. Wesley will be at the K-Town Tavern. I know that for a fact.
I